you for being here, man. It is good to see you. I welcome you in the house of God today. We're thrilled that you're here. Shout out again to our overflow people. I always want to point you guys out because you sacrifice this room so that we have plenty of room and we can be safe. So without them, I don't know that we could meet. So they're doing a great job. And for our online people, we're welcoming you. Glad to have you today too. We're doing a bit of an online poll this weekend. So if you're online, we need your help, okay? I want you to get on the comment section and I want you to write down your favorite time of the year: winter, spring, summer, or fall. If it's winter, we're providing free counseling services for you, okay? But tell us your favorite season as a fun little poll. Thank you for being here today. I've really looked forward to communicating the Word of God this weekend. And today's a little bit different because we're going to be talking about vision. And so it's not really kind of a conventional sermon that you're going to hear this weekend, but we're going to weave in the Word of God about where we believe that He is leading the ministry here at Eastside Christian Church. I'll give you a little story to kind of get it started today. It probably was me personally, and I know you're going to have a hard time believing this, but this guy right here is at least partly responsible for the shot clock in college basketball and high school basketball. Me, right here, okay? And you might not realize that, but back in the 1950s, the NBA, the pros, man, it was starting to tank, and it was starting to get a little slow, and it was getting a little boring. And one night, the Pistons, watch this, the Pistons beat the Lakers 19-18. And they just said, we're not taking that anymore. And so they instituted what was known as the 24-second shot clock. You had to shoot in 24 seconds. But college and high school, they didn't follow suit until my team came along, okay? I'm talking East Park Junior High School, Danville, Illinois, mid-70s, all right? Our team came out and we were on fire. I mean, we were destroying this team. It was embarrassing for them. And so I don't know how many points we were winning that first quarter, but it was like game over. And second quarter started and it happened. Momentum shifted. They got on fire. We went stone cold. Everything turned. And at halftime, we were losing by 1 point. So we go in the locker room. Our coach is a crazy man by the name of Mike Waters. It made Bobby Knight look like Mother Teresa. And so he's screaming and throwing stuff. And then he said this: here's what we're going to do to turn this thing around. He said, we're holding the ball for the rest of the game. You shoot the ball, I will personally break your arm. And hold on to it. 2 seconds left in the game. We're going to shoot and win by 1 point. I don't know who won. I can't remember any of that. I just remember as one of the guards just standing there holding the ball like this for minute after minute after minute. It was a radical strategy for a comeback. And then about 10 years later, the colleges started putting the shot clock in. High schools started putting the shot clock in. And I'm pretty sure it was because of me, okay? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Now, I want you to think about this, because when you kick that kind of concept together, it might not be a basketball analogy for you. But, dude, most of us have been there. Most of us in this room today have been right there. And that's that time where, man, you had the world by the tail, smooth sailing, man, clicking on all cylinders. And then it happened. And sometimes it's sudden, and sometimes it's a slow fade, and you wake up, and all of a sudden, you're behind. The story of Job in the Bible might be the best analogy we have that anywhere in all of Scripture. I mean, you start reading that book, and I mean, everything is off the charts for Job. I mean, his family, his business. I mean, this guy is living the dream. And then it happened. The boom hits, and it's all gone. One of the most fascinating phrases for me in the whole Bible is later on in the book of Job, when he is wailing over the fact that he's lost it all. He starts thinking about what it was like when he had everything. And he uses this phrase that I love this phrase. Check it out from Job. When my path was drenched with cream. He said, man, I remember when everything was going great. When I had the world by the tail, my path was drenched with cream. I read that and think about that chocolate stuff they pour on Krispy Kreme donuts, man, and it's just dripping all over you. Can life be any better at all? And Job says, I remember that, and now it is all gone. Well, I want to suggest in our message this evening that most of us don't go through life without that happening. And there are people in this room right now, some of you who are watching online, you're gonna resonate with this, that you know exactly what it's like when it just seems to be that we went from first quarter going crazy and second quarter getting beat up, and it causes you to ask the question, how can you recover from that? How do you regain what you had? How do you grab the lead again? How do you get your path drenched with cream like it used to be? And I've learned in my life that almost never happens accidentally. And I want that to resonate with you. And of all the things I want to hit you on this weekend, the one that I want you to start with is this idea that if you're kind of there and you're at second quarter, halftime, and man, what in the world happened? And you're wondering that, I want you to hear this, that things getting better don't just happen. You just don't sit around and think, well, maybe it'll get better. It is my experience in life that it only gets better with intentional, thought-provoking plans. That this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna make happen. And so with the analogy of that, what I would like to do for you today is I want to unfold the plan that we believe Eastside Christian Church has been given by God in 2021. Now, in order to be able to say, here's where we're gonna go as a church, I think it's important to say, well, here's where we were, and here's where we are, and understand those things before we know where we're gonna be. And so today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you some inside look at some things. I'm gonna talk a little bit about where we've been as a church, and I'm gonna let you in some of the closed doors that we have around here and tell you maybe some things we've never told you before to give you an idea of where we've been as a church. About 5 or 6 years ago, our leaders around our church, our elders, our staff, we began having conversations about, man, things are really cool here and God's really active and doing some good stuff. But man, something is missing. Something just isn't the way it ought to be. And we began thinking about that and talking about that. And we were a healthy church. If you were here 6, 7 years ago, you know we were a healthy church. We were a solid church. But there was just something not there. I told a friend of mine one time, I said, here's what I feel like. I feel like we're a National Football League team and our record is 10-6 at the end of the year, okay? That's good, that's strong, that's healthy, that's better than average, but it's not 12-4, it's not 10-2. I mean, it's okay. And you know what I found is I found a lot of people are okay living 10-6 lives. And that's totally okay. A lot of that is a personality-driven thing. But for a lot of people, when you're there, it's like, man, there's something missing. There's got to be something more. And so that was the sentiment of a lot of your leaders here at this church is, yeah, thank God we're 10-6, but man, what would it be like if we were 12-4? What would it be like if we're 11-2? And that just kind of burned within us. I remember an American author by the name of Louis Grizzard has one of the favorite quotes of mine. He says this: if you're not the lead dog, the scene never changes. And if you think about that, that'll mess you up, okay? But that sentiment was there. And so there was this movement, I think, within the leaders of our churches is where do we believe that God is leading us as a church, and how are we going to get there? And we ended up landing on something in the Bible that I think we all knew, but I don't know that we knew it at the depth that we were to find out. And that was the very first church ever, located in the city of Jerusalem, the very first church on the planet, in the city of Jerusalem, where the Bible in the book of Acts gives us its story, how it started and how it became a just unbelievable movement. And our leaders started reading that and studying it, and we found out that they seemed to have it. Whatever it was, they seemed to have it. And they began this swelling up of passion within our leaders in our church is we want that. We believe God wants us to have that here at Eastside. Not just to be a good, healthy, normal church. We want something extreme. And so the more we talked about it, about this idea that Jerusalem had something going on in the family of believers that we wanted, we came up with a name, and many of us have seen it for a few years now, and it's called #ECC Family Strong. And so they had some family strong stuff in Jerusalem that we wanted at ECC. And we added the hashtag for the sole purpose that we wanted to be the cool kids, okay? And so #ECC Family Strong became our vision here. And we said we're gonna pick 3 years in our church, 2018, 2019, 2020. And we're gonna do everything we can that whatever was happening there, we're gonna see that it happens here. And we began to define what was happening in Jerusalem. And I wanna kind of show you this, is they were a growing family. We wanted to be that. They were a radically serving family. We wanted to be that. Academically grounded family. We wanted to be that. A caring family. We wanted to be that. An economically centered family. We wanted to be that. And you'll see it's an acronym of GRACE that helped us remember it easily. We wanted that to happen in our church. And you'll remember what I shared earlier is that you can think about your own life and here's what I want to happen in my life. And a lot of you probably have been doing that this year. You've been thinking about, man, I want this to happen in my life, and I want this to get better, and I want that to be repaired, and I want to fix that, and I want to be good at that. And none of those things will ever happen unless you say, here's how I'm going to do it. And so there was this groundswell within the leaders of our church. I think it might be, in my lifetime, one of the most exciting times that I've ever had in ministry where everybody said, man, we want that to happen. We want God to make that happen. But we knew we had to plan for it. And so there are meticulous, detailed business plans, master programs. I mean, stuff that would bore you to sleep for a month that we put together. And here's how that's going to happen at Eastside Christian Church in 2018, 2019, 2020. We are going to be #ECC Family Strong. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I have never told a soul until right now. I never told my wife, I never told our staff, I never told our elders, but I looked at all this stuff that we were gonna do here at Eastside, all these great plans and these beautiful goals, and there were some of them that I thought, there is no way in the world that is ever gonna happen. So your leader, okay, here's the faith I had. You can dream all you want. That ain't never happening here. And what I found out very quickly is that God reminded me that when I count on me, I am limited. And when I count on Him, He is unlimited. Did anybody hear that? I don't know that anybody heard that, okay? And that is that when you think you're going to do something, there is always a ceiling, guys, always. And so whatever it is in your life that you're saying, man, I want to get that right, I want to get that straight, I want to make that happen. If all you look is at what you can do, there's always going to be a ceiling to it. There is never a ceiling to him. So I came up with a little phrase that I use for myself often, and I've used this over and over. Look in the mirror and you see can't. Look in the clouds and you'll see can. You see the difference? That if I look at me, man, there's some things I can't do. If I look at him, he can do anything. And so I began to look at these different things that we wanted to happen here at Eastside. And in the mirror, I was saying, that is never going to happen. And God says, watch. And over the beginning of that vision in 2018, 19, and 20, we just started seeing some of these things happen. Let me just kind of remind you a few things as we look at where we were. We wanted God to help us baptize 100 people every year. And so we put that on a big board and we prayed about it, blah, 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 blah. And all the time we're praying about it, writing about it, everybody's talking about it. I'm thinking, ain't no way that's going to happen. That's 2 a week. Do you people realize that's 2 a week, okay? So 100 baptisms every year for 3 years. That's 300. That ain't never going to happen. And so in the very first year of 2018, God gave us 200 in just the first year. So what I didn't think could happen at all, God doubled. Are you following me? I don't know that anybody is following me, okay? Because what's happening is when you look here, okay, when you look here, there's always a ceiling. And when you look there, there's never a ceiling. We wanted to get as many people as we could in our church to volunteer, to have ministry. We want you in this room. We want you worshiping. We want all that to happen, but we want you to take it a step more. And we want you to have jobs and ministries. And we said, let's do that and let's make it happen more than we've ever had happen in our church. We're having a service one time where Dave Stone, who's a friend of mine, while he was still the senior leader at Southeast Christian Church, we'd brought him to speak, and we were having dinner before the service, and so we were having a meal over there in the gym, and I'm talking to him, and we're starting to talk about our churches, and he said, Dave, for Eastside, how many of your people serve? How many are in ministries? And I said, well, right now it's about 65%. So about 2 out of 3 of our people have a job here. And he dropped his fork along with his jaw. And he looked at me and said, if we did that at Southeast, we'd win the city to Jesus. Nobody did that. And here at Eastside Christian Church, we're starting to see what happens when you look at the clouds and not the mirror. Somebody came up with this. I almost slapped them in the meeting and got their walking papers ready. We wanted to have 1,500 people worship every weekend here at Eastside Christian Church. And I've been doing this for a long time, gang. I am as old as the hills, and that does not happen at churches. It just doesn't. We were at church a little over 1,000 people when we had this unrest and hey, let's do something. And then somebody said, well, let's become a 1,500 person church in 3 years. And that don't happen. Churches don't grow like crazy. They just don't. Go visit a church today and then go see them 5 years later. They're going to be about the same. Churches kind of plateau, and those that grow kind of grow a little bit. And I remember here in the 1500 thinking, there's no way that is ever going to happen. But I couldn't say that, okay? I had to get up here and tell you, we're going to do it. And inside I'm going, it ain't going to happen. And at the end of the second year in a 3-year vision, we were having weekends with over 1,700 people worshiping here. So watch this. God did in 2 years what I didn't think he could do in 3 years. And he would have done it in 1 year, but he knew it would give me a heart attack. So he did way more. Why? Because we were looking not at the clouds, at here, what I was doing. I remember meetings that we had back in those days. Here were the meetings that we were having. Pulling our hair out. Where in the world are we going to put all the kids? Where are we going to put them? We were talking about putting kids in closet areas because we didn't have room for them. We were having meetings about where do we park the cars? Where are we going to put all the cars? I can close my eyes and see a summer day when two of our staff members, John Talbot and Dave Metter, are out there in the parking lot painting parking strips on the aisle that runs around. They were putting parking spots in our street because we didn't have any place to put cars. In a moment of frustration in one meeting, I said, in the midst of this whole discussion about where we're going to park, I said, we got 20 acres of grass. People can park in the grass. And then a doomsday thinker and our staff said, what are you going to do if it's going to rain? It's going to be all muddy. People parking in the mud. And I said, it ain't going to rain and nobody's going to park in the mud. That week it rained. And one of our elders got his van stuck in the mud. And I'm not going to tell you who he is, but he's a drummer and his last name is Eastridge, but that's another thing. So I could go on and on and on, but here's where we were. And I want you to feel this. I want you to feel this, not just about your church, but about your life. We were at the end of the first quarter, and man, we were tearing it up. And God was pouring Krispy Kreme, chocolate cream everywhere we went, man. It was just incredible. It was unbelievable. And you probably have had moments in your life like that where you thought, man, it just can't get any better. And then, almost immediately, COVID-19 hit. And it was all gone. And momentum shifted. And before we realized it, we were losing. I'm going to tell you something happened behind the scenes of an office one day. And I don't know that anybody knows this other than our staff and elders. It was March 12th of 2020. It's 5:15 p.m. in the afternoon on a Thursday. Let me tell you what's going on at 5:15, typically every Thursday. All of our worship and tech people are here. They're getting ready to rehearse and get ready. I'm in my office taking a nap. I do that almost every Thursday afternoon around 5 o'clock. I try to sleep for 15, 20 minutes and just relax. And then I'll pray, and then I'll read through my notes, and I'll get ready. And so it's 5:15 p.m. on a Thursday on March 12th, and I hear a knock on my office door, and I get off my couch, and I open the door, and Aquila Bach is there as white as a ghost. I knew immediately something was wrong. I said, what's going on, man? He says, Governor Holcomb has just issued a mandate that there can be no gatherings in churches of more than 250 people starting immediately. And the problem with that is our Thursday service had grown so much that we were well over 300 every week. And we looked at each other and we said, what in the world are we gonna do? We called Winston Dickerson, our student pastor who serves on a management team with me, and the three of us sat in my office and we made three critical decisions in 5 minutes. Decision number one, we're still gonna have church tonight. The reason we're gonna have church is because it was raining cats and dogs, and I don't know what it is about Christian people, but you think you're gonna melt, and whenever it rains, attendance goes down, okay? So we said it's already gonna be down a little bit, and people are gonna have heard the governor, and so some people are not gonna come tonight, and so we're gonna have church in an hour and a half, and we had 178 people that night because we believed we'd be under 250. The second decision we said is that we will cancel services. We will cancel services Sunday. In all of my life, that never even dreamed in my mind that that is something that we would ever do in a church. And so I said, I'll get all our elders together tonight on the phone and we'll verify this. And we decided that we would cancel church that Sunday. And the third thing we did is we went to all of our tech people here at our church and by then it's probably about 5:45. Service starts in an hour and 15 minutes. We said, you got an hour and 15 minutes to figure out how to record this service tonight visually and audibly and have it online Sunday morning. You got an hour and 15 minutes to figure that out. And they figured it out. And that began, give it up to them. They're the heroes in all this. And that began 10 weeks, about 2.5 months, where our church was closed. And we went from first quarter kick and tail to second quarter momentum shift, losing the game. And it happened like that. And there's a lot of us in this room, including me. We can talk about churches all day, but you've had moments in your life where that happened, dude. And you didn't see it coming. And now all of a sudden, it's over. And how do you get past that? What do you do about that? As I look back over the last 10 or 11 months since this happened, I see some things that have happened here at Eastside that I want you to completely understand. So that's where we were, and this is kind of where we are right now. First thing happened is we survived. There are businesses, give it up. There are businesses, and there are restaurants, and there are churches that were open a year ago that are not open today. They're not even in business. Secondly is we thrived, okay? I'm not gonna jump into this, but I could spend a whole weekend telling you about things that happened in a pandemic in our ministry that are mind-blowing. Why? Because we quit looking in the mirror and we looked in the clouds, okay? And then the last one that happened is we dived. Now grammatically it's probably dove, but it's got a rhyme, okay? It dived. And let me be honest with you, let me be clear, we are not what we were 1 year ago. We're not. We're better, yeah. Our on-site attendance today is around 900 people worship here, not 1,700. So about 800 people are not here. We've had some weekends that you know nothing about where we almost didn't have enough staff or volunteers to put on a service. And so we really have taken a significant hit from where we were, and that's where we are today. And I'm not a guy that likes to get into that, and so if we're not careful, we can get negative and we can kind of feel bad about it and get into depression. And again, take it out of the church realm, and there are people that's how you're approaching life, okay? You were winning the first quarter, you're losing the second quarter, just knock you down, you're ready to give up, you're weary. And our leaders have sat together and we have worked through that. And where are we gonna go? What is God's vision for Eastside Christian Church? And we believe with every ounce of our heart that God calls people to recovery. That God calls people to rebuild, to restart. God never wants you to stay in the ditch, ever. And so we thought about that and we said, it is time for us to turn a corner. And on this weekend is the weekend that we let you know that we're ready to turn the corner. Our vision for this year, very simple, very clear, is simply called Comeback 21. That this is the year that will be the comeback year for Eastside Christian Church. We were winning big time, a virus knocked the wind out of our sails, and now we're gonna start winning again. And I told somebody this way. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine somewhere else, and they're kind of working through the same kind of stuff. And I said, dude, here's how I'm visioning it. That we were going about 100 miles an hour a year ago, and it was fun, and things were rocking out, and it was exciting, and everything was tremendous. It was a little scary, but man, it was awesome. And then a virus hit, and we've been going about 30. And we went from 100 to 30. And this is the weekend. We can't start going 100 again. There's a real virus that is not done yet, and we've not tackled it yet. We cannot go 100 tomorrow. But by golly, we don't have to go 30. And this is the weekend that we put the gas on the pedal, and we're going to start going 60. We're going to start moving. And I want you to stop, and I want you to apply that in your own life. I'm saying this a lot of times, and I mean this with all of my heart. I'm talking to you right now about the church, but this applies in your life. And I want some of you to know that, yeah, we know you had it going. We know life was great. And we know that something's happened. And we know it's knocked you down. And we know it's taken your breath out. But it is time to draw lines in the sand and say, this is the day that I push on the gas pedal again. This is the day that I start my comeback. And this weekend, that will happen at Eastside Christian Church. Let me share with you really quick kind of the parameters of what is going to happen at this church. We believe that every major thing that we do ought to have biblical foundation to it. And so we went back to the last words that Jesus ever said when he was on this earth. He gathered his followers and he said these words. You probably have heard them. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Now, there are some things that are happening in that commission that Jesus gave to churches, and those things are going to be happening here in this church over the next year. And we've worded them in a way that we kind of want you to kind of remember these, and you're going to see it. You're going to see it plastered everywhere. You're going to hear me talking about it all the time. Here's how we're going to put that into place. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get wide, okay? Now, I don't mean wide this way, okay? I already got that covered, and believe me, you don't want to go there. That's not what I'm talking about. Jesus said, I want you to win as many people as you possibly can for the kingdom of God. I want them to become followers and disciples. Well, what do followers do? What do disciples do? Listen, they gather together and worship the Father. And so the numbers of people who get together and worship get wide and wide and wide. When we hit the virus, we offered a couple options for people to worship here. We had our on-site worship, and we also had our online worship. We took our on-site worship, we said, let's make it as safe as we possibly can. We took our online worship, and we put money into it and said, let's make it the best that we can. And here's what we said to people, and have said this for 10, 11 months. That's your decision. Just choose something, okay? Just choose something, on-site, online. Today is the day that we start speaking into that. With our Comeback 21 vision, we want to start leaning people in a direction. And here's a way that I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear my heart, is we want to encourage you when you're deciding on-site or online to learn to exercise caution, but not convenience. And what I mean by that, for some people, it may have become a convenience thing, but not for everybody. The fact is that this virus is real and it's not gone yet. And there may be some people who have specific reasons to be cautious, and you need to be home and you need to worship online, but not everybody's there. And we found that it's very easy that when you used to be cautious, that now you're just being convenient. So let me give you an honesty check, and you'll realize, man, my spiritual integrity is so low. I woke up last Sunday morning about 6:15 in my house, and I get up and I kind of get ready for church and everything. And I go downstairs, and it's pitch dark outside. It's cold outside. It's raining outside. I look at the map, and they say, ice is coming. We're all dead by 10:30. And so it just kind of got, oh, man, this is so bad. And I walked past our couch. I said, man, that looks so good. go upstairs, sleep for a couple more hours, come down, get some coffee, and pull the blanket up around, get my girl next to me, and flip on Eastside Christian Church on the screen. Now, if I would have done that, listen to me, that would have been convenience. And I just want to challenge some of you, particularly those of you who are online, is I want you to think, is it caution? Then that's great. Stay cautious. Or is it convenience? And for me, that Sunday, that would have been convenience for me. And I would not have received a paycheck, but that's another thing beside the point too, okay? So I really want to encourage you to start thinking about that. Caution or convenience. And either way, whatever you do, make a commitment to that and make that a part of your life. You're going to hear us talk about getting wide all the time. Let me show you one more thing we're going to do, and that is we're going to get deep. We want roots to go down. We want your faith to get stronger. So you're going to hear us talking about this all the time. Jesus said, not only win people, but then he said, teach them to obey. And so you're going to hear us talking about getting deep over this year. We're going to talk about Bible studies that we're going to be having that we want you to jump into. We're going to talk about groups that we want you to get involved in where Christians are holding each other accountable and helping each other grow. We're talking about getting your faith into practice as a volunteer. And you're going to hear this over and over and over. And here's what I want to challenge you, whether you're on site or online, I want to challenge you, take it to a deeper level. Take it to a deeper level and build your roots. And then finally, we're going to get tall. I love this. Jesus said this. He said, I am with you always. I got to thinking about that. And so if he's with us always, doesn't it make sense to ask him for his help? And so we're gonna get tall. We're gonna be praying. You're gonna hear us talking about that over and over and over. Let me tell you two really cool, exciting things for me. It's gonna happen with prayer. We're gonna build a prayer team, and anybody within the sound of my voice can be a part of that. And every service that we have here at church on Thursday night and 2 on Sunday, I'm pointing right now to a room at the very top of our building. And it's a beautiful room. It's a tiny little room, and it's a beautiful room that looks out over the whole city in glass, and it's a prayer room, and we're gonna have a group of people meet in that room every service we have, praying that God does amazing things in the lives of people. What would it be like? Can you imagine this? That every service we had, we got a group of people right on top of us who are calling down upon the power of God to work while we're in here. Finally, we might have a decent sermon around this place, okay? We're gonna build that. We're gonna walk in the month of March. We're gonna try to walk 1,000 prayer circles around this building. It's the same thing they did with Jericho in the Old Testament and walked around the city, and God brought victory. And we're going to take the month of March, and we're going to have people walk the circumference of this building around the parking lot, which, by the way, is about a half mile. And we want you to come whenever you want to come, at any time you want to come, and we want you walking. And it's not social hour. You bring your buddies and you're talking. You're walking and you're praying. You're praying for your family. You're praying for your church. You're praying for your preacher. You're praying for your neighbors. You're praying for God to work in the world. And we're going to have in the month of March, we're going to have 1,000 prayer circles encapsulate this building. God is going to answer, and some people are going to get skinny. So March is coming, okay? You're going to hear us talking about it over and over and over, that we're going to get tall. Now, you know how God has blessed this church. It's a great place, but can you imagine, can you think about a year from now when we are wider, and we are deeper, and we are taller? And that'll be a comeback that will set the stage for greater things that God will do. And what if it happened? What if it happened? Man, what if it happened to you? That you got wider, and you got deeper, and you got taller. Imagine what God could do in your life if you began that today. Now, I want us to sing about this. And we're going to sing a song that is reflective of that. And so I'm going to ask our worship team to come on back and get set up. We're going to stand as a family here in a minute. We're going to sing. about this whole idea of coming back. And while they get ready, I want to tell you a story that I've not publicly shared, and today, this weekend, is a good time for us to kind of share that because it applies. My wife Susan and I spent Thanksgiving alone in our house. I know many of you did that. We were alone in our home for the first time ever in our life because the week earlier we had both tested positive for the coronavirus. And I know a lot of our leaders here and many of our friends were aware of that, but we never said anything public about it at all. And we went through the coronavirus for a little bit of time in our house and our lives. And we're both fully recovered. We're doing fine. And we gained an understanding a little bit about what this virus is. For me, almost no effect whatsoever. But for Susan, that was a tough thing. Susan spent a week in the hospital with this stuff, fighting through it. And I don't even know how to tell you what it's like to sit in a parking lot in a hospital while your wife is in there and you don't know if it's getting worse or better. I don't even know how to tell you what that's like. And I found myself just asking God over and over, show me signs that things are getting better. Please show me signs that we're recovering. Show me signs that things are going to work out. And I would ask about, what's your oxygen level and how's your cough? And I just begged and begged God for that for 3 or 4 days. And there just wasn't anything showing us that things were turning around, just nothing. And then there was a moment when I knew we'd be okay. I was talking to her on the phone, and she said that one of her nurses came in and told her that the guy in the room next to her thought he was the only person on the planet with coronavirus. And so he was demanding and mean and insulting, and all the nurses hated to go in that room. But the buzz out in the nurses' station to each other, they would tell them, get through it, get through him, take care of him and move on, because the next room is Mrs. Hastings, and she will make you feel so much better about yourself. And I knew my girl was starting to come back. So what are the signs of comeback? We're going to get wide, and we're going to get deep, and we're going to get tall, and we're going to do it together. So would you stand, and would you share with your voice to a listening ear of God that we're on his team? Let's do that.